Another piece of legislation that just passed the House would be the Israel Security Assistance Support Act, which, if I understand correctly, basically says that the Biden administration shall not withhold aid and weapons that Congress has already appropriated for Israel. And I was looking at the vote tally, and it looks like there were only 16 Democrats who managed to cross the aisle to support this Republican-led legislation. Even here in Florida, where I now live, you had Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who, calls herself a staunch Israel supporter. Even she could not bring herself, apparently, to support this legislation. And I guess that kind of brings me to a broader question, Congressman, which is, from your vantage point, being a freshman there in the Congress, do you look across the aisle and do you think that support for Israel, and I guess by extension even support for the American Jewish community, is this still a bipartisan issue?
Look, by and large, yes. But obviously within the Democratic Party, you are seeing a disintegration of support. The fact is that Joe Biden is putting electoral politics ahead of all other considerations in doing what he is doing with respect to withholding aid to Israel. Democrats are deeply concerned about what will happen in Michigan and Minnesota, and what will happen if the pro-Hamas part of their base stays home or skips the line. And so they're trying to appease these folks, and they're putting the safety and security of Israel in jeopardy as a result. So this bill had 16, should have had a lot more, but the White House and Democrat leadership in the House, were whipping against it. And so, obviously, as Democrats tend to do, they fall right in line.
So what is the Biden administration's strategy exactly, to the extent that it purports to even have one when it comes to the war in Gaza? Because it's been talking out of both sides of its mouth essentially since just a handful of days after the Hamas pogrom. What is its strategy?
Well, that's the question. I mean, ultimately, they've been relying on propaganda from the Hamas Ministry of Health to justify some of their opposition to how Israel is conducting the war. And even the United Nations the other day revised the death toll counts downward significantly. Because, as I've said from the very beginning, these numbers coming out of Hamas are nonsense. And, you look at Biden's own State Department is saying Israel is conducting the war well within the bounds of international law, and they are not committing a genocide. And so, this is really, it's unconscionable. I'm still trying to understand, other than the politics, which we all get, what exactly the president is trying to accomplish by withholding the aid, and how this is going to help ensure the safety and well-being of Israel going forward. This is why I fought like heck to get the SHIP Act included in the supplemental aid package, because when you look at the situation in the Middle East, Hamas is funded by Iran. 93% of their budget comes from Iran. Where does Iran get the money? The illicit oil trade between Iran and China. China is the biggest purchaser of Iranian petroleum, 80%. Since Joe Biden took office, Iranian petroleum sales are up $88 billion.
Wow.
This is absolutely outrageous. It's why, we fought to get that in there. Speaker Johnson, Chairman McCall did a great job getting that as part of the final supplemental aid package. But we are trying to hold the Biden administration accountable for some of the disastrous policy decisions that have been made that are, frankly, making the world less safe.